There comes a time in your life when your desire to change must outweigh your desire to remain the same. If this is your time, I want you to know that whatever your circumstances are, you are exactly where you need to be right now. You are stronger than you know. You deserve to live in your purpose and to have a happy and fulfilling life. You're worth keeping your promises to yourself. Every single thing you've done until this point has been enough. You are enough. You always were. My greatest desire is for you to give yourself permission to take a chance on you because you're worth it. Welcome to the True Growth podcast. I am Latina Mata, your mindset coach. And in this podcast, we explore and learn all things related to self-love, self-discovery, and inner work. It is the foundation to help you navigate life and make the necessary internal shifts to become the very best version of yourself. It is my greatest pleasure to be with you right here, right now. Throughout this podcast, we get to grow through what we go through together. Welcome back to another episode of the True Growth podcast. And today's episode, I want to speak about gratitude, but not just, good to say thanks, it's always nice. Not that. I'm going to tell you a story really quickly. Many years ago, I was very ungrateful, but I did not realize that I was ungrateful until life shifted for me and I learned the importance of gratitude. I remember my mom and my grandma always used to tell me when I was struggling extra, Tina, you need to say thank you. You need to be grateful. And I was very entitled, and I would have complained and fussed and been like, oh gosh, how much times I'll say thank you, or I would say thank you, but not sincerely mean it. And one day when I decided to finally surrender and just start really being appreciative of the things that I had, I noticed major shifts happening in my life. I went from working in corporate in a job that really emotionally drained me to resigning from there and literally experiencing a new type of life that I didn't think I could have ever imagined because, I never imagined that in the first place, right? And I really put a lot of emphasis on gratitude. I really gave so much credit to the transformation that's experienced in my life, to really feeling grateful at my core. And so out of that birthed the Just For You journal, out of that birthed True Growth Caribbean, out of that birthed a lot of things. But an experience happened, and it's only now I'm able to talk about it as I reflect, right? The pandemic came, and when the pandemic came, life started to look very differently for me, financially, emotionally, things just mentally, things just did not look and feel as hunky-dory and as happy as it was before. And of course, a lot of life changes happening in terms of relationships, etc. So it was just a lot to deal with. And I learned so many modalities along the way, so much things about energetic management, so many things about, practicing different things to basically support me, my personal growth, etc. And here's a confession. Over the last couple months, I don't feel as though I've been super happy. I don't feel as though I've been really happy. Now, of course, it's a combination of things. We're locked up in the house. Online school is still going on. I have specific visions, I have specific goals, I have specific things that I want to do. And a coach needs a coach. Coach needs a therapist. A coach needs exactly what you need. I need that too, right? And a coach needs support. And as much as I had that, there were just parts of me that just felt very disconnected. I just felt very, blah, like what in God's name is really going on? And I attributed a lot of that to, needing to have different resources or needing to have new circumstances or needing to, do more energetic management work, needing to do more decluttering, needing to do more healing, just needing to do more things so that, I could feel better. And as much as I coach and as much as I fully understand, that we need to have these experience specific feelings and emotions in the now instead of putting them on the other side of accomplishing something, there were still parts of me that struggle to do that, right? I am only a human being. And then I became this grand advocate for feeling all my feelings. So, of course, in feeling all my feelings, the not so good feelings I would have felt a lot of, right? And at every point of my journey and every point of this journey, you have to go through the highs and the lows, right? And you need to go through the entire process. At least this is my belief. Go through the entire process, experience the entire process, and come out on the other end with this new grand perspective. And more or less, that is where I coach from. That is how I teach. That is how I learn. Like, I legitimately, if you're into human design, I'm a 1-3 profile, which means that I actually have to go through the experience to learn, right? So I legitimately had to go through the experience, and things started to shift in my business. Things started to shift in my life, both financially, in terms of clients, in terms of how I showed up, in terms of how I felt, and good shifts, better shifts, right? Now, of course, if you're looking in from social media, nobody would know half the shit nobody would know 99% of the shit that I'm explaining here. And this goes across the board for anybody you're looking in from social media. Nobody knows what in God's name is going on behind the scenes. So, of course, on social media, you just see growth, you just see progress. You might see some shifts and some changes, but all well and good. But this is an inside look to behind the scenes. And things started to shift in an upward direction. And guess what? How I was feeling was not getting better. Now, I know we aren't to attach our feelings, our enoughness, our happiness, our worthiness, or anything on the other side of accomplishing something. Like, I know this. And so I had to deal with, when I accomplished something, I had to deal with the imposter syndrome. When I accomplished something, I had to deal with my nervous system dysregulating and malfunction. I had to deal with, when I accomplished something, dealing with self-sabotage. Or when I'm on my way to accomplishing something, I am dealing with sabotage. Like, I had to deal with all those things. So when I deal with them and I figure out, okay, this is how to navigate, I then teach, I then share, right? So for this year, I've accomplished things and then my nervous system malfunctioned. I've accomplished things and then sabotaged the entire opportunity. I've accomplished things, and the last experience that I had, which is where the gratitude comes into play. I've accomplished things and felt no shift in my emotion. No shift in my emotion. And I pondered for days. So this had been happening over a couple months, but I found like shit, it's like month 3 or month 4, and things just feel completely blessed still. As much as I'm seeing the rewards for my labor, I'm seeing the fruits of my labor, why isn't my mood changing? And God ministered to me in a very weird way. He does some weird things, if I have to be so honest. And I remembered a saying that I heard from Tony Robbins about a year and something ago. And it was, what is your emotional home? And that statement kept playing in my head over the last couple of months. What is my emotional home? What is my emotional home? Improve your emotional home, change your emotional home. And I got it. And I was like, okay, so I'm doing all these modalities, all this energetic management shit. Emotional home change. Now, of course, from a space of trauma and understanding your trauma response and your nervous system and all those things, like, I understand how easy it is to go back in a space of just being a particular way, where your emotional home might be frustration or anger or sadness or jealousy. Like, that is your automatic response to go back to that place. And I had not realized, and this is where sometimes just going back to the basics makes things so different. I did not realize that my emotional home within the last year of dealing with all my personal stresses had reset to an unhealthy place. It had reset to where I was before 2018 of ingratitude. This is a big fucking confession for the whole globe to hear. So, mindset coach. I did not realize, because of course I'm using everything else. I'm using all the modalities. I'm using I'm using these shits, and I would feel good. And I would see the results, and I would see the experience. Like, I would see the benefits. So it's not as though, I wasn't doing any of my own inner work. Like, I'm doing my inner work. But I had completely paused without realizing on fully integrating my practices of gratitude. There was a pause that I did not even realize. And so when things were good, when things were bad, when things were not okay, when I was like over the moon excited, there was just this disconnect. I still felt disconnected, and I was like, what's going on with me? Only to realize that my emotional home had reset. My emotional home had reset to one of ingratitude. And so that brings up two things to me. One, no matter how much work you do in a healing, in a growing, self-discovery, etc., you don't ever get too big for the bare minimum, the bare basics, gratitude and affirmation. Like, you do not ever get too big for the basic, most minimum thing when it comes to your healing and your personal growth. Expressing truthful, sincere, deep gratitude and speaking life into yourself and into your situation with affirmations, which are the two things that basically transform my entire life. That's one. And the second thing is, you need to always check in with what's going on in your emotional home. You need to check in with what's going on with your emotional home, with your emotional body. And as much as I've been doing all this work, and as much as I've been showing up for my clients, and as much as I've been taking myself and being supported, etc., through different modalities, my emotional home had reset to where I was prior to the beginning of my personal development journey, which is one of ingratitude. But I could not see that is what it was. I could not see. When I had that revelation, basically, and I was like, oh, because of course, I just know where I want to go. I just know what it is I'm about. I just know I have people to help. I have money to make. I have purpose to walk. Like, I know that. So I'm waking up with this energy up. That's what I'm about. But then I'd find when the shit is happening and things are going that I still don't feel any different. But as I teach all the time, you would never feel any different if you don't feel the way that you want to feel in this present moment without having anything that you want. So in a quote form, do not attach the emotions that you want to experience, right, on the other side of having something. And I had been doing that without even realizing. But I had been doing that without realizing because I had not implemented my deep-rooted practices of gratitude the way that I was used to. So my emotional home had reset to being ungrateful without me ever noticing. So what does that mean? It means that check-in, no matter how much you know, no matter how much you do, no matter how much modalities, how much practicing, how much coaching, how much whatever, you always need to do an audit on yourself. You always need to do that check-in with yourself in terms of, okay, what is going on here? And my reset freaking button was to really start back implementing my deep practices of gratitude. And when I did that, every single thing that I have in this very moment that I had been trying to change and fix, because of course I want to see growth, I want to see improvement, I want to see my goals, like I want to see these things, it just became fucking enough. Gratitude turns everything into enough. Gratitude turns everything into enough. Gratitude opens you up to the flow of abundance. Gratitude puts so many things in perspective. And when you remember to implement these deep appreciation for the things that you have, and then fully understand to not attach any of the feelings that you want to the other side of things, it allows you to be more present in the moment. And when you are present in the moment, you get to show up segment by segment throughout your day with so much ease, so much grace, so much happiness, so much fulfillment. And you get to love differently. Then you put out a completely different energy, put out a completely different vibration, and people receive that. And when people receive that, you become more magnetic. And when you become more magnetic, you then attract your goals with way more ease. And that is Law of Attraction 101. But this is me explaining to you from my own personal experience as a mindset coach, as somebody who teaches on this shit, how absolutely important it is for you to do a reset. Doesn't matter how much work you do, how much you know, where you go, what school you go to, etc., etc. At the end of the day, resets are always necessary. Resets are always necessary. And your reset button could be as simple as practicing gratitude and using your affirmations. And so I'm saying all this to say that don't just say, hey, thanks for this, thanks for that. Don't just write in your journal, I'm grateful for that, but it's not soaking in, it's not integrating, it's not embodying. You're not there with it fully. And I'm just letting you know, if that is your experience, don't judge yourself for it, because clearly I've been there. Don't judge yourself for it. Don't beat yourself up for it. You are going to have that revelation. You are going to have that experience where you realize, oh my God, no amount of money, no amount of abundance, no amount of experience, no amount of love and happiness and gifts and whatever, and I say love and happiness loosely, but no amount of physical things that you receive is going to change how you feel. As in, it's not going to make you happier, it's not going to make you feel more fulfilled, it's not going to make you feel more excited if you are not allowing yourself to experience that in the now. And in order for you to experience that in the now, especially if you don't know how, because you don't know what abundance feels like, or you don't know what happiness feels like, or you don't know whatever it is, and because you're saying that you don't know, you don't have it, it starts with gratitude. It starts with gratitude. And when I began to implement my deep practices of gratitude, shit started to look different. And when I mean look different, as in the same office space that I'm in started to look different. My relationship started to look different. My daughter started to look different. My bank account started to look different. And when I mean different, not that anything is specifically changed, I just started to see things differently. And because I started to see things differently, I started to feel things differently. And when I started to feel things differently, I then started to show up differently. And when I started to show up differently, people started to receive me differently. And when people started to receive me differently, I started to attract the things that I wanted with more ease. Gratitude gets to be your reset button. Your affirmations get to be your reset button. If you notice that you are attaching the things that you want to experience on the other side of an accomplishment, this is your chance. This is your time to stop. Take an audit on what it is you're doing. Let gratitude be your foundation. I'm so glad I get to share this with you. This was clearly a confession for a mindset coach, where she had to go back to the basics 101. The basics? I'm an advocate for the basics. So, thank you so much for sticking here with me. I hope you appreciated this podcast. I love you. Please leave a review. Please share. I will connect with you very, very soon. Bye-bye.